Welcome back, Cinema Blend fans. It is time for Hero Blend issue number 2. Last week we talked about Batman vs. Superman moving from 2015 to 2016, but this time we're changing it up a little bit by switching over to Marvel and talking about the Fox half of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Check it out. This week my guest is Silas Lesnick from ComicSoon.net and Superhero Hype. Welcome, Silas.
Thanks for having me.
So the big topic that I want to talk about this week is kind of the big developments in the Fox Cinematic Universe, which is essentially the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Right now there are some big things happening there. Obviously they're one of the big companies competing with Marvel. They have big stuff coming, but this week in particular there was kind of a lot of stuff going on. We had we had some big casting rumors floating around for Fantastic Four. We had the Empire covers launching for X-Men Days of Future Past. So it's a big week to talk about this. Let's jump right into it, shall we?
Start with a disclaimer.
Yes.
We know very, very little about Fantastic Four at this point.
In fact, this entire movie is basically a mystery. It's been around for a number of years. The reboot itself has been around for a number of years now, but we don't really know anything specifically, except for...
What we know,
yeah.
Josh Trank is directing. He's the guy that did Chronicle. Mm-hmm. It's his only feature film credit so far.
Yep.
But he certainly has the superhero background.
Definitely.
And he's been attached to this forever.
Yes.
Like, it's been a while. It originally featured a script by Jeremy Slater.
Yep.
Most recently...
It's being reworked by Simon Kinberg, who is actually now the kind of guy that's been put in charge of the entire Fox Cinematic Universe, in that he was also a writer on X-Men First Class. He's working on Days of Future Past. Obviously, he has this Fantastic Four gig. I'm pretty sure he's working on X-Men Apocalypse as well. Point is that this is going to be the go-to guy.
Yeah, he seems to be Fox's Marvel guy for now.
Yeah, he's essentially what could be the Joss Whedon of their universe. Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about the casting a bit, because you have a lot of big names. You have Miles Teller, Richard Madden, Kit Harington going out for Mr. Fantastic, Michael B. Jordan being the number one guy for, or looking like the number one guy for Human Torch, Kate Mara, Saoirse Ronan up for the role of Invisible Woman. This is an interesting crop of actors. I'm curious what you think of the group.
It's an interesting crop of actors, and it's names that... While Josh Trank has even denied at one point, he said that was not true at all.
That's true.
That Miles Teller was going to be Mr. Fantastic.
That was a couple months ago, back when Miles Teller was first rumored for the part. Josh Trank said, no, there's no truth to this casting story at all. Now it appears that he may even be the frontrunner to play this role.
And while it's certainly not confirmed, Miles Teller has hinted that we'll hear word soon. Michael B. Jordan has hinted that we'll hear word soon. It sounds like things are moving forward with those people in the role.
Absolutely. And let's talk about Miles Teller a bit, because this is an incredibly talented dude. Just last summer, he was in Spectacular Now. Not even last summer, just all last year, because it started at Sundance. He had the Spectacular Now going, and this kid is an incredibly talented star, and he's a star to be. I'm curious what you think about him and his potential as Mr. Fantastic.
I mean, he's a great actor. He's you've interviewed him as well. He's a really nice guy.
Yes.
He's very charismatic. It's an interesting approach. When I think of Reed Richards, I think of an older professor type.
Sure.
I get the point of starting a franchise young, especially if the ultimate goal is to cross over with the X-Men films.
Yep.
Who knows? So I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see what Josh Trank comes up with.
Absolutely. But the younger thing is an interesting aspect, because it does take an element from, I think, not really the original sense of the original comics, but instead more the Ultimate side of the
Ultimate
comics.
Universe, absolutely. The Ultimate Universe, if you don't know, launched shortly before, I think it might have been right after, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie. And what it was Brian Michael Bendis basically rewriting Spider-Man from the beginning. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's not only just starting from the beginning, but also just setting it in a more modern context, just kind of bringing it into our world. And I mean, and it's a fantastic read, of course. But I mean, to kind of talk about, but just can you go and talk a little bit about the
Ultimate Fantastic Four?
Yeah,
absolutely. It launched. I think Warren Ellis was writing it when it first started. It is a younger Fantastic Four cast. I believe it was like a government think tank that brings these four people together. They go get hit by cosmic rays and have their origin story, but it started with a much younger group of kids.
Right, and then obviously that's going to have a huge effect. And I mean, and to kind of dive further into this cast, you have Michael B. Jordan, is pretty much the only guy that's being considered for Human Torch. He has his connection with Josh Trank through Chronicle.
Yeah, he was in Chronicle. He also starred last year in Fruitvale Station. He's fantastic in it.
And also, actually, just this week, he's starting in That Awkward Moment with Miles Teller, which is kind of a little bit of an interesting thing. It's a whole bit of Hollywood kind of behind-the-scenes magic kind of going there. But what's interesting about Michael B. Jordan is the fact that Johnny Storm, a.k.a. Human Torch, this is a character... Obviously, he's a white character from the comics. This is a black actor taking on the role. I'm curious what you think about that kind of change.
I don't think it matters. I'd rather have a good actor in the role. I think it's a different iteration of the characters.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think people get caught up in is the Marvel Universe itself isn't just a universe, it's a multiverse. There's there's an infinite number of worlds. Why can't this world exist?
Exactly. And also, I mean, and it's obviously this is going to have a certain effect on his relationships within the film, because obviously Johnny Storm is the brother of Sue Storm. If Kate Mara and Saoirse Ronan are the actresses being considered for that role, obviously something's going to have to change there. But that's an easy fix. I mean, they can just be adopted. I mean, there's any number of options that they can go from. The other character that I do want to talk about also is Ben Grimm, because this is a character that we actually haven't heard that much about so far in the casting rumors.
We heard an interesting rumor this week.
Yes, there was one.
I think it popped up on movies.com.
Movies.com. Yep.
They claim that Josh Gad was in talks. Josh Gad was in the original Broadway Book of Mormon.
He was the voice of Olaf in Frozen, the lovable snowman. But what's interesting about this story is that it did break. It broke early in the week, but then Josh Trank also completely denied it. But again, we're talking about Josh Trank, his denials. We're not 100% sure where exactly this lies.
He denied Miles Teller very early on. He said that the day the word broke that Miles Teller was up for the role, he said that the rumors you're hearing today aren't true. Mm-hmm. It sounds like Miles Teller is going to be Reed Richards.
He's still not talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I think one of the tricky things is when you have people that haven't signed yet, there's a lot of deals going on, and I personally don't know Josh Trank. I don't know how sneaky he is.
Sure.
It could be something as simple as, well, he's not playing Ben Grimm. He's only doing the thing.
Right.
Which, honestly, Josh Gad wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling we're probably going to get a motion capture thing.
Well, honestly, that is a question, too, is that not only do we not know who's going to be playing Ben Grimm / the Thing, we also don't know how he's going to be represented. I mean, in the Tim Story 2004 film, you had the physical, you had the actual...
And in the 1994
Roger Corman produced version, you had the giant poop monster that crawled out of the sewer. But let's not talk about that. Instead, let's focus on the new, which is, and also, I mean, but now there are new technology. There are new technology avenues to pursue. There is the option of a CGI Hulk, the option of a motion capture Hulk. What am I talking about? Motion capture thing. I'm curious. What do you think is the best way to pursue that character?
I think Hulk's a great example. Hulk works unbelievably well if you can do that with a thing. I'm all for somebody like I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name.
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad, because I'd much rather hire someone that is going to be skilled at delivering a vocal performance if it is primarily a vocal performance.
Sure.
And I think Josh Gad could do that. Wouldn't be someone I would necessarily pick.
It's definitely
I'm excited to see it.
It's a choice out of left field. It could end up being one of those choices that ends up being absolutely brilliant. Who knows at this point? The other big development, of course, is also the release of the Empire 25 huge, the big series of character covers of Empire that show off basically every single mutant in X-Men Days of Future Past.
And even Rogue, who apparently is no longer in X-Men Days of Future Past.
Which I'm not even sure how to wrap my mind around that. I guess maybe they were planning it months ahead, and then she got cut out, and then she just ended up being on the cover anyway. Or maybe she is in the movie, and... Let's not even touch on that subject. Let's just talk about the entire cast of mutants we got to see. Because not only did we get to see mutants that we know, like Rogue and Wolverine and Iceman, we got to see a bunch of new mutants as well. We got to see the new Quicksilver, Blink, Warpath, Sunspot. I'm curious what you thought about the look of these new characters.
I liked some of them more than others, but again, it's hard to say. I thought the Man of Steel costume looked awful the first time they showed it.
Sure.
I thought the Green Lantern costume looked awful before and after they showed it.
Well,
Darth Maul looked terrible the first time they showed him in Entertainment Weekly. These photos aren't the best examples of the things, and who knows? Blink may be in the movie for a blink of an eye.
That was just beautiful.
Thank you. It's hard to say. I guess the one that a lot of people have jumped on is Quicksilver.
Yes. If we're being realistic, he does look a bit silly with the goggles and the whole... Yeah, I think the key words that I saw popping up more than anything were a hot topic. I think that was probably the most applicable phrase we used around the costume.
I will point out, though, we have no idea what Bryan Singer is doing with Quicksilver. It may be a joke. It may be the son that disappointed Magneto, and he does. The timeline is certainly weird. It seems like Quicksilver happens in the 70s.
In the 70s,
but he's early 20s or late teens.
And as if he's Magneto, and we're not even 100% sure if he is Magneto, or if he's going to be Magneto's son. I mean, it's weird that there's no Scarlet Witch in the film, even though technically Fox does have some rights to it. I mean, and we have to remember also, this is a character who entered the movie right after Joss Whedon announced that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were going to be in the Avengers Age of Ultron. So who knows exactly what is going to be going on in that realm of the film.
I will say, and I wish I had a better citation for this, but I feel like when it came out that Quicksilver was in both Age of Ultron and Days of Future Past, Bryan Singer made some sort of remark on Twitter that at least had me thinking that by the time this movie is done, whatever universe Quicksilver existed in may no longer exist.
Well, it's entirely possible. I mean, for one thing, we know that, obviously the film has a lot to do with time travel, and time travel is always going to end up... I mean, hell, the entire plot itself is the idea of changing the future. So the idea that, what they end up doing in this film could end up changing the entire thing in the universe. It could be completely destroy every single little bit of continuity that has been established in the X-Men universe so far. The options are really endless.
Absolutely. It's also interesting because the idea of universes seems to be what they're building towards, or at least the model that has worked really well for Marvel Studios proper.
Exactly. And as we mentioned, Simon Kinberg is kind of the guy that's in charge of all this right now. And he has even gone on record saying as much as, what is the goal right now? Be like Marvel. Because, let's face it, Marvel has kind of figured this whole thing out. I mean, Avengers, Iron Man 3, and Thor 2 these are some of the biggest movies that we've seen in recent years. They figured something out. Obviously, Fox is building towards something of its own. In addition to X-Men Days of Future Past coming out this year, in addition to Fantastic Four coming out next year, you have X-Men Apocalypse coming out in 2016. But what do you see?
And X-Force.
And you have X-Force also somewhere down the line.
Maybe Deadpool, hopefully.
Deadpool, God forbid. Please. But the point is that this is an expanding universe. How do you kind of see it unfolding over the next couple of years?
I have a feeling that by the time Days of Future Past is done, all bets will be off as far as continuity.
Sure.
That whatever timeline mixing they're doing, they can sort of what J.J. Abrams did with Star Trek. But I'm hoping that Apocalypse is Age of Apocalypse and not just Apocalypse. Because Age of Apocalypse was... one of my favorite stories.
It's also exactly. This is also a story that our generation also completely grew up with, and it's one that we're familiar with, and also our age group is the one that's going to comic book movies right now. Well, obviously, and younger people, because nerds come in all shapes and sizes. People, the question is, but also you are. In terms of just building towards the future, obviously the first Fantastic Four movie is going to come out next year, but when do you see the Fantastic Four and X-Men coming together? I mean, how far down the line?
I don't know. I mean, the trick... It's hard to say because we have no idea what's happening with Fantastic Four. We don't know what sort of characters they're building.
Let me rephrase. To put it in kind of a different context, you have Warner Brothers, who just put out Man of Steel last year, and right now it looks like Batman vs. Superman is almost turning into practically a Justice League movie. They are very much in a rush to kind of build these bigger universes. Do you think Fox is going to kind of go that route, or do you think that they are kind of going to stick with what they're doing right now and just kind of have a slower build?
I mean, one of the things they could do is not necessarily have X-Men and Fantastic Four be the same universe.
That's true.
But the same multiverse, because if you can imply that these are Fantastic Four who are explorers who like to go on crazy science fiction adventures, there's no reason they can't go visit the X-Men.
Travel.
Then you can even hint that they could go visit the Avengers. They won't.
They won't because of rights issues, naturally, because it's the big tragedy of Hollywood right now, let's face it.
But the comics have done that. The universe of Marvel in the comics, the proper Marvel universe has existed since the 60s, is referred to as Universe 616.
Right.
And they've even already sort of said, okay, well, the movie universe is, I don't remember what number it is, but it's a universe number, and crossovers can happen.
Exactly. And then really the options are endless. Who knows what else is going to happen over time. It's an exciting time to be a comic book fan. That's really all you can call out for it. Any final thoughts?
On X-Men or the
on the
Fox
entire
universe?
Fox cinematic universe?
I'm excited. I think a lot of people are wishing that Marvel Studios had all their properties, and as cool as that would be, there is something nice about we're getting 2 Marvel movies a year from Marvel Studios. By having it at another studio, we can also have an X-Men universe.
Exactly. And also Spider-Man on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame everybody sort of can't just play together, but in the absence of that, I'm happy to have as many comic book movies as they want to show.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe someday they will all come together. I'm not betting on it, but we can always hope, right?